All commissions done by King B on the road are not guaranteed to be of quality or certain length, and Shat The Movies and its hosts are not responsible for any content, offense, or not delivering on the product.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending a Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week, we take a look back in time, decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, want to choose one for yourself, please visit chatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So, thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. Review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you like to hang out live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are you reviewing tonight?
So, Gene, a big part of the podcast is nostalgia. And we talk about how people today won't know what it's like to walk into a video store and search for a film. You get it, you go home, you watch it. And the big part of that was you'd walk into the store and they would have posters and the boxes, and there were movies you didn't know. There's a few of them that have stuck in my brain. I know the poster without even having to see it. And this is one of those. There's a couple of them because I used to go to the video store, not the one I worked at. The guy would always have the posters and he'd give them to us. So I had like DEFCON 4 was a big one. And this was the poster I wanted. The Hitcher. I don't care. I'm not going to spoil it. Tonight's movie is The Hitcher. You clicked on it. It is the open road. It's the menacing silhouette. It is the rear view mirror with C. Thomas Howell's eyes. There's no like explanation, nothing. So I was so excited to get back and to watch this again because one of our great listeners, Rob H., who has, I think, another commission next week, great support of the podcast, great friend from across the pond, wrote in to review this 1986 horror thriller classic, The Hitcher.
And Rob H. wrote in and said, good morning, Gene and Big D. As always, thank you for the opportunity to introduce my next commission, The Hitcher from 1986. I'm very excited to introduce this classic film, as it's one I haven't revisited for many, many years, but it definitely left a lasting impression on me when I first watched it decades ago. And I'm glad to say it didn't disappoint on my rewatch earlier this week. In fact, I think I liked it even more than I did previously, and that is saying something. So, why did I choose The Hitcher? Well, there are a few reasons. First, when I was younger, you always saw people thumbing a lift and hitchhiking around the UK. It was commonplace and easy and free of charge method of getting from A to B. In fact, one of my university mates relied on it completely. He'd hitchhike everywhere, including trips over hundreds of miles to see his girlfriend and family. He was always skint, or broke, as you might say in the US, so it worked perfectly for him. Over many beers at the student bar, we'd talk about his experiences, who he met, and different personalities, and of course, the big question, did he ever feel in danger? His usual answer was something along the lines of, don't be a dick, Rob. It's as safe as houses, with a few extra expletives thrown in for good measure. From then on, I was intrigued, not just by the idea of hitchhiking, but also of picking up hitchhikers and hearing their stories, who they were, where they were going, and why. And yes, if they happened to be attractive women, that would have been a bonus. That's a fantasy we've all had, right? Anyway, this fascination stopped dead in its tracks when I first watched The Hitcher. To say it affected me would be an understatement. From that day on, I have always passed people thumbing a lift, made sure the doors are locked, and maybe sped up a little, just in case they were a psychopath who wanted to kill me and ruin my life. Call me cautious, fellas, but that's the effect this film had on me. In fact, I think it's one of the most impactful films I've ever seen. Quite simply, I shat myself thinking this could happen to anyone, as you don't know who you're picking up. They could be your future wife or the last person you ever see. Maybe my imagination was running away with me a little back then. Secondly, I think the cast in The Hitcher is stellar. C. Thomas Howell, who I've always liked from his previous performances, is brilliant as the young, impressionable, and well-meaning Jim Halsey. His character goes through hell and back, and in front of our eyes, he transforms from naive helper at the start of the film to someone completely focused on stopping a killer at the end, whatever the cost to him or his future. I think that is some turnaround, and I think C. Thomas Howell does a great job of it. A very young Jennifer Jason Leigh is also great as Nash, the confident, big-hearted waitress with a strong moral compass. She went on to have a pretty good career, and who could forget the sex scene on top of the fire truck in Backdraft? Maybe her experience of The Hitcher subliminally affected her as she played the memorable psycho in one of her standout films a few years later, Single White Female, which again would be a good commission if it's not been done already. But the standout performance, without a shadow of a doubt, is Rutger Hauer as John Ryder. His portrayal of this chilling, charismatic, intelligent, vengeful, calculated killer is truly epic. His piercing stare and those eyes. Who wouldn't be scared shitless if he looked at you like that? Every scene he is in, he steals and dominates. He doesn't say much throughout the movie, but he doesn't need to. His wicked grin when he appears from behind a cuddly toy, or when he shoots a helicopter down, or the simple twitch of the eyebrow says it all. And when he creeps into the bed next to Nash, time to sleep with the lights on, methinks. Of course, Rutger Hauer is famous for Blade Runner as Roy Batty, but this, in my opinion, is his standout role and resulted in me becoming a huge fan of his, watching his later films, including Blind Fury and Split Second, which both would be great future commissions. In the UK, he was also the face of Guinness for a few years, which may or may not have influenced my appreciation and consumption of that particular beverage. Thirdly, and away from the cast, I think the film is beautifully shot. The desolate landscape complements the theme and atmosphere of the movie. It grips you from start to finish, and you always feel uneasy, wondering where Ryder is and what's coming next. Certain scenes have stayed with me for life. The police station scene with the dog, and of course, spoiler alert, Nash's fate with the truck. You don't actually see what happens, but you hear enough, and your imagination fills in the rest. That's far more powerful and disturbing, in my opinion. When a film lets your mind do the work, you know it's doing something right. Lastly, Big D. You mentioned this film in a previous episode a while ago and said you'd love to see it commissioned so you could revisit how well it's aged. Well, your wish is my command. I hope it lives up to expectations. Don't worry, Gene. I got one lined up for you as well in the future. So, as always, I've been rambling on, but you can probably tell I really like this film. I'm guessing the budget wasn't huge, given the relatively small and young cast, but it's used wisely, in my opinion. That said, they must have spent a fortune on the cars they rolled and rolled and rolled in this movie. I don't think I've ever seen so many cars roll over so many times before or since. Maybe Casino Royale comes close. The stunt team definitely earned their pay packet here. So did my wife's score. I know I usually score low when I actually put the right number down correctly, that is, but this one is surely justified. For me, one white movie. It has flaws. It's very 80s in its looks, but boy, did it make an impression on me, and it still does to this day. In fact, I personally think this is better than The Shining, which no doubt will lead to your listeners sending messages galore into the chat and my 18-year-old film-obsessed son asking for a new dad, but I stand by it. I didn't think about The Shining at all after watching it again recently, but I haven't stopped thinking about this movie since watching it earlier this week. Before I go, I forgot to ask earlier, did you ever hitchhike or pick up a hitchhiker? And if so, how did it go? Bring on the stories. Right? Time to shut up and sign off. I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this one. I'll be listening, as always, while walking Monty through the Derbyshire countryside, rain or shine. He says hello, by the way. Take care, and thanks as always for the laughs, banter, and brilliant podcast. Until next time, cheers, Rob H., the UK one.
I can almost guarantee that I know you've picked up hitchhikers. I would guarantee you have hitchhiked.
I've never hitchhiked except at soccer matches when I refused to pay for parking and I parked far, far away from the stadium.
Okay.
If I saw other fans that were going in, clearly like they had all the stuff on their truck or whatever, or their car, and they're like, hey, jump in. Or at like ski resorts. Like if somebody's going up to the top, they're willing to give me a ride, I'm in. But that's about
that still counts. That counts. You don't need to have a sign that you fold out that says, hey, going to Toledo, or a stick with like a bandana and your stuff on your back.
Yeah, but that's like saying if you're at the zoo and the tram comes by that you hitchhike to ride on the tram.
You solicited that. The tram is there for guests. You just found another person and said, hey, give me a ride. That's the core of hitchhiking.
Contraire. They offered me a ride. Is that
How?
hitchhiking?
Did they pull up?
No, they rolled down their windows.
Yes.
Like Americans. And they said,
what it is.
Hey, want to ride?
They thought you were a hitchhiker. That's why they offered the ride.
Because of my piercing gaze.
Yes, it is. And Rob, I want to say, you said that you rambled on. I disagree. The letters you write in, you're very thoughtful. Your reasoning is sound. It doesn't always work out in the podcast, but I can't shoot down any of the things you said. You're very passionate about it. But we can recommend, I think, together, Lady Hawk, great Rutger Hauer film, and Blood of Heroes. Maybe not, a big budget film, but a lot of fun. And he says, in the UK, it's a big thing. I think the size matters, right?
It certainly does.
England's about 50,000 square miles. That's like Alabama or Mississippi. I would hitchhike Florida because I'd be like, hey, it's Florida. But when you go to the US, which is like 9.8 million square kilometers for our listeners across the pond, the US is bigger than you can imagine. And it doesn't seem safe with all the barren, like out west. The backdrop of this film, it's beautiful, but you can go what seems for miles and miles of nothing else. Maybe hitchhiking, I think Australia, the outback would be similar. Far more dangerous.
Oh, there's also other factors. I mean, guns aren't as readily available, but
True.
Also cars smaller.
Our shitty mental health facilities.
Mm-hmm.
So we have more people out there. It's probably a higher probability you're going to be killed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, statistically, we're talking it's maybe 2%, but it's there.
The days of Jack the Ripper, long gone. Rob, thank you for this commission. I had a best friend named David Schaefer who had that cool mom that let him stay up late and and they had cable with all the channels. So he saw all the movies, right? And he saw The Hitcher one night. I didn't see it as a kid. He just told me stories about The Hitcher. Based on those stories, I made up a movie in my head as a child. My hitcher was an Arizona hitcher. He roamed around Prescott, Arizona, which, by the way, the King Bee and I are going camping there tomorrow, so that'll be fun.
Mm.
And he liked to bury children in a forest clearing. Different kind of guy, not John Ryder. Equally scary, though. So I'd really avoided this film because I liked my version. I'll let you know what I think of this one.
So I was excited. The commission was for me. Thank you very much, Rob. That poster and that the stare of Rutger Hauer, it's something that burned into me as a kid. And I was simultaneously upset and excited at my viewing experience for the rewatch. The only place I could find this was a free week subscription on Amazon Prime for Cinemax. And the only copy they had was the old scan and pan 4:3 ratio. And it felt right. It felt like I went back in time. Half of my TV wasn't being used. And the pan and scan kind of throws you off. The movie felt dirty. It felt nastier more than I thought it should have. It felt like it was like contraband. The movie felt like it wasn't meant to be watched. Like it was some kind of snuff film. Like I was watching it on an old CRT TV in '89. It was grainy. It was not a polished horror film. And I feel like that added something to it. So the experience was very much what I remembered.
Well, Hitcher is a 1986 horror thriller directed by Robert Harmon and written by Eric Red. It stars Rutger Hauer as the title character, a murderous hitchhiker who stalks a young motorist, played by C. Thomas Howell, across the highways of West Texas. Jeffrey DeMunn and Jennifer Jason Leigh appear in supporting roles. Released in the United States on February 21st, 1986, the film was originally met with tepid critical and commercial response, grossing only $5.8 million on a $7.9 million budget. But in later years, it has been reappraised as a cult classic. It was followed by a 2003 sequel, The Hitcher 2, I've Been Waiting, which featured Howell reprising his role, and a 2007 remake that Rob H. says had Sean Bean in it. Rob says he's never seen it, never will, and thinks it should never have been made. I agree. I don't think they need a remake of The Hitcher, but having not seen it, I can't really offer an opinion. Let's hit the trailer.
The moment he stops, the terror starts.
I swear I didn't kill those people. I got sprayed by this guy who picked up hitchhikers.
Do you believe me?
No!
Hitcher, rated R, starts Friday at a theater near you.
Cross-country driver Jim Halsey spots a man hitchhiking in the desert and gives him a ride. As they pass a car on the shoulder, the hitchhiker says his name is John Ryder and that he dismembered that car's driver. John threatens Jim with a switchblade and says, "I want you to stop me." So Jim shoves Ryder out of the moving car and drives away. When he later sees Ryder in the back of a family car, Jim has a minor accident. He finds the family's blood-soaked car and vomits before Ryder corners him, tosses him his car keys, and then blows up a gas station.
I don't think you've ever had a more accurate opening block to one of the films.
Thank you.
John Ryder dismembered a driver, threatens him with a switchblade. Because this movie, The Hitcher, it skips that usual buildup, right? Where we see him on the road, we get a montage, then, he sees a hitchhiker, he thinks about it. There's no charming act. There's no faking normal behavior. There's no gradual reveal like, is Rutger Hauer, is he dangerous? Rutger Hauer gets in the car and he's like, hey, yeah, you know what, that guy, I just dismembered that guy, cut his arms and legs off. He's talking about killing that dude. He makes it clear to Jim, hey, I'm going to kill you next. There is no ambiguity. I don't care. The movie doesn't want to be a mystery. And that's what I thought it was going to be. You pick him up and you start to question, what's up with this dude? No, we immediately know he's bad news from second one, okay? He won't answer where he's going. He's speaking in like riddles. He's acting off. He literally forces Jim's foot down on the gas and gets him to go off. What the hell more do you need? There's every sign that this dude is bad news. Get him out of the car. And I got to be honest, if you're going to pick up a hitchhiker, and Rob, you could do this. If you ever do it in the U.S., you have to have a gun. You have to have a knife. You have to have some weapon, Gene. You do. You do. There's no reason not to. You don't decide, I'm going to raw dog Good Samaritan and goodwill in a situation like this. I know you've picked up hitchhikers because you see the good in everyone and you could talk them out of wanting to behead you or kill you or chop off your arms and legs. But now with Baby Z, would you pick up anyone with Baby Z or Sarah?
No. I mean, it's not this guy for sure. Like he's not.
It was raining, Gene.
Yeah.
It was raining. He could have just been an unhoused man who needed help.
No, you're right. Listen, in 1986, maybe you're conflicted in this situation, okay? Somebody's stranded. There's no cell phone. There's nobody coming by. It's raining. But in 2026, there's no reason to give somebody a ride. You can offer to call somebody for them, right? That's all they're getting. And I think that's fair, If you pull over and you roll down your window and say, hey, can I call some help for you? And they're like, no, just give me a ride.
Yeah.
That might be a hint that something is wrong there. And I think, like you said, the rain part is relevant, but also the Hitcher was very smart because they gave Jim a selfish reason for picking up John. Because he makes the joke, like, my mom told me never to do this. But we establish in that very short, like 30 seconds of time, that Jim is falling asleep behind the wheel and he needs some company. That's why he's stopping. It's not just because he's a good dude.
I've always been taught, and I mean, you're self-defense guy. You pride yourself in Krav Maga and your BJJ. He puts himself into the situation, and we're going to call him John Ryder. Let's call him the Hitcher. And the Hitcher says, "Hey, you just keep driving. We're going to go somewhere." I immediately know if somebody tries to take me hostage, I'm not going with them.
Yes,
because whatever they're going to do to me, they want to do it in a quiet place. So Jim pulls up to the construction site. This is right after the reveal. There's a large group of construction workers. There's a front loader blocking the car, and he's got the knife in his side. I'm screaming at Jim, this is your only chance. Tell them there's somebody in the car who's going to kill me. He's violent. They could somehow help you. He does nothing. And this is going to become a recurring theme of Jim either saying too much or saying too little.
I have to establish for the audience that we understand thematically this is intentional, right? Like we get it. So Jim he doesn't have the nerve to act. And that's the whole point of the movie, right? Is that John Ryder wants to develop this, right? So they pull up, there's a tunnel, there's a guy who's like, what part of Illinois? Like my wife's from Rockford, Any of us, you, me, I'd be like, listen, I might get stabbed, but there's people here who can help me. if I go with this guy, I'm going to get stabbed and there's going to be nobody there to help me. Right. And so we get that it's intentional. And I was actually imagining if they wanted to really hammer this home, Big D, you're talking about like the slow burn. The movie opens in Chicago, right? And it's like a John Hughes Chicago.
Yeah.
Get your keys in your coat, get in your car. It's the Hitcher, you know. And he's going and he's like seeing his neighbors and dad. And no, we don't get any of that. It opens dark, it's desolate, and we go straight into it. But I understand, again, we're talking about two different things here. Thematically, we understand why he's doing this throughout the movie. But in reality, guys, if you are in this predicament ever, take the chance, get the help.
See, but now also thematically, I want to talk about the Hitcher, because the Hitcher seems to be testing Jim and everyone that he comes in contact with. He's trying to get somebody to stand up for themselves. He's trying to get somebody to actually fight him off and eventually kill him. He's got a bit of a death wish. But Jim, wouldn't you just kill him right away and be like, this guy it's going to take me 6 days and getting all the way across Texas before Jim will muscle up. I'm going to kill Jim immediately and move on to the next rider.
I think it's the fact that in that moment where he's like, say I want to die. And Jim was like, no, I don't want to die. And
it was
like,
the door.
I'm going to make you say it.
Yes, it was shoving him out the door once that did it.
That's what made him obsessed.
He fell in love. He got negged.
That's the two options with the Hitcher. He's going to be obsessed with you or you're going to be dead.
At some point, I would have told the Hitcher, I know you're not going to kill me. You keep sitting around me all the time. It's like, do you want a friend? Let's make this a buddy road trip movie. You and I go together. You don't kill me. I deliver the car and you just go on your way.
Oh, he'd be so badass to travel with. Like if he wasn't going to kill you.
He would be so much fun.
So much fun.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. Welcome to Shitsville. At a roadside diner, Jim meets server Nash and finds a severed finger among his French fries. The police arrive and arrest Jim, whom Ryder is framing for his murders. Though the police doubt Jim's guilt, they lock him up overnight as protocol, and Jim wakes to find the cell door unlocked and the officers murdered. At a gas station, he takes two officers hostage and radios Captain Estridge, the officer in charge of the manhunt, to surrender. But just then, Ryder pulls alongside and kills the two officers.
Okay, so if you haven't watched it in a while, so Jim picks him up in the rain, he's driving, and the Hitcher is like taunting him, and Jim's whining, what are you going to do with me? A lot of shit, whatever. I'd be whining too, probably. I would want to look like I wasn't a threat, and then you spring into action. So Jim's big move is he sees the door ajar light on his car. So he knows that the Hitcher didn't close it completely when he put out his cigarette. So Jim, he mans up, gets him out the door. He hits the pavement. The Hitcher's out. And I'm like, fuck, movie's over. Mm-hmm. This is a logical ending to the threat. They're out on the open road. Jim has a car. The Hitcher's left behind. And it looks like he's knocked out, right? He hits at night. He wakes up in the morning like he's hungover. So maybe an 8, 10, 12-hour head start, right? His ears are ringing. He probably has a concussion. In real life, this gap is too big. You're not going to close this gap. And the movie asks us to accept, can he really just keep reappearing out of nowhere? Because the Hitcher, he stops being a man at this point, who's gonna like stalk in close proximity, to now it's like he's mystic. He's almost some other kind of being that he just appears out of nowhere, because there's no way, Gene. Is there any possible way, if you throw the king bee out the car and he wants to come and get you with a 12-hour head start, would he ever be able to find you?
I spent most of this movie, like you said, thinking that Jim was imagining John Ryder, the Hitcher, okay? Mm-hmm. There's no way you dump a guy on the road and he comes bombing along in the back of a family station wagon hours later. Again, people, we're not talking like John Ryder got in his own car and started chasing you. He then had to hitchhike.
Yes.
And the first car that came along is a station wagon, right? With a family. And I'm thinking, beyond the time that he's got, the head start he's got, what family just picks up Rutger Hauer off the road, tosses him in the back of the station wagon with their small children? And let's say you did that. Let's say you were the dad who's like, yeah, my baby's in the back. Go on, hang out with my baby. what if the first thing on your mind if some guy drove by screaming and pointing at the back of your car be,
Right.
oh, maybe he's talking about the hitchhiker I just picked up that's like bleeding everywhere.
Right, but it's not even like he's a normal-looking hitchhiker. He looks like he's laid a bike down. He looks like he's got road rash. He's bloody. He's beat up. He's chain smoking and angry. Yes, you do not pick this guy up. That's bad news. But what about the fact that what does Jim do? Jim's got the guy out of his car. He's like, whew, okay, back to road trip movie. It turns the music on. He's like, Bahama, come on, pretty mama. He's singing. I'm thinking, fuck delivering this car. I'm parking this thing like a Greyhound. I'm getting on a bus. I'm going, because they're going west.
Yeah.
Somehow, Gene, I don't know, Chicago, I mapped it. Chicago to San Diego, you should have never touched Texas. You shouldn't have come within one state of it. But at that point, I'm turning the opposite way. I'm going where the hitcher's not going to look for me.
That's what he wants, though. He'll be on the bus, too. Bum, bum.
Would it be funny if this was like The Prestige? If there were multiple Rutger Hauers?
Spoiler alert.
He had twins or like some brothers, and they just... Or it was a cult of the Hauer. And it was just guys wearing the trench coats. But you think that his powers of tracking have ended at this point. And then it just goes it goes up to the next echelon, right? The stalking, it starts to feel like he is just omnipresent. I'll get to it later that I thought this was a supernatural film, that there was going to come out to something that maybe like you had mentioned, that there's something else going on, that we're not seeing the true story, that there's something on a higher level. And Jim reaches this gas station. And you think finally he's got a moment, I'm safe again. Ooh, there's a payphone in there, right? And he can't get to the payphone. And somehow the hitcher is already there. He's inside. He's secured the building. He's sitting waiting in like a large truck. He's got to be hiding, right, Gene? So I don't know how many hours he's been sitting in that truck just waiting. Ooh, I bet he's going to come. Meanwhile, he could be going the other way. He shows up. He drives through the door. And I'm starting to think, like, what happened those 10 hours before he got there? Was he filling up gas for people who would show up? Was he running the station? Because if somebody shows up to a station like, hey, I'm going to go visit Earl down at the gas station, and Earl's not there, the cops will get called. So he's got to do something to make it look like it's still going to go on, like a normal operating business day. But it becomes ridiculous. I stopped thinking of this as a stalking highway horror film because this is worse than Jason Voorhees slow walking and popping up. He always finds you. He's always there. It's like he planned it. It's less plausible, and it's just more. You have to understand that this isn't a horror chase. It's more some kind of a supernatural haunting of Jim.
Yeah, at this point, I was convinced that we had a Jacob's Ladder situation on our hands.
I
thought Jim had crashed into the semi-truck. So people haven't seen this movie recently. At night, the thing that wakes him up and makes him go, I got to pick up a hitchhiker to keep me awake, is that he nearly runs into a semi-truck. He falls asleep and nearly runs into a semi-truck. And I was like, oh, I get it. I figured this movie out. As you know, Big D, veteran movie podcasters we are, we're always trying to figure out what's the hook, what's the twist. And I'm like, okay, he hit that truck and he's in a coma, some sort of nightmare coma. And John Ryder, the hitcher, is death, making Jim decide whether he's going to keep fighting or give in, right, and actually die. Yeah. And I totally expected that he was actually going to give in, and then it would cut to doctors flat, it's flatlining. All right, 11:15 p.m. Calling it. No, he's actually just a hitchhiker. After him.
I love your idea, and I think we're going to come up with a couple ways that they could have made the film. Maybe instead at the end there, instead of the doctors, it's some kind of a final reckoning where he's trying to show what type of person he was. What would he choose to do in that situation? But you live out west, and for our, Rob and our other listeners in the UK, out west, it looks like a desolate place. We talk about the Outback. Is there only one road, Gene, in certain parts that it's plausible, right? Let's say, I know I said about Texas, right, that it shouldn't have taken that route. But say now we get out west by Texas, we get to Arizona, Nevada. Is there any plausible situation where there could be one road that you're bound to continue to be able to follow a person.
Okay, so it's not so much the one road thing, but actually in Texas there, I mean, it is, if you're going across West Texas and you want to be able to get fuel often enough, yeah, it's basically one road. Like it's the I-10. That's what you're doing. But I think we got to remember, no GPS. He probably doesn't have a map on him. He was just like, hey, I'm going to get on the interstate and just go, right? And I'm going to end up there. I don't think he's like, gallivanting around in small towns and stuff like that. So I think that's probably the case, is like it's a lack of navigation and a need for fuel that he's sticking to to that same road. But yeah, and like you said, in a scenario where there's a guy chasing me, I'm probably just going to try to find help as soon as possible, not just continue along my road trip.
Have you ever seen the film The Duel? It was one of Spielberg's first films, and it was a real low budget. It was a guy driving like a small, like regular 4-door sedan. He was like a salesman or something, and he passes like a large, angry, mean-looking semi. Okay. And the whole movie is just the semi chasing this dude across the West. That's what I felt like they wanted this movie to be. It was going to be this monolith, this big, unstoppable force just chasing you out in the open road. And at that point, I started to think, okay, I'm just going to think of him as a large truck chasing another guy through, because none of it makes sense.
Well, Jim reaches a cafe where Ryder points out Jim's revolver is unloaded and leaves him several bullets. Jim boards a bus that's pulled over, and just when the furious officers are about to kill Jim, Nash appears with the revolver and flees with Jim in a patrol car. As the police chase after them, Ryder murders the cops and shoots down a police helicopter.
So, Gene, you worked in the newspaper business for a long time.
Sure did.
Right? So one of the things I picked up from you is burying the lead. Mm-hmm. You do not bury the lead. And what that basically means is start off with the most important thing. If you do that in life, you're going to get through meetings quicker. You'll be respected at work. If you're out trying to date, honesty, be concise, get to the point. And I'm going to get the point that, Jim, this fucking kid is driving me nuts. I'm wanting him at some point to die. I'm thinking as if he's doing everything in his power to have these bad situations stumble upon him, because he has options so many times. We talk about the family, the station wagon, right? In the station wagon, we're going to call it a warning scene. Jim pulls up right next to the family. And this is like planes, trains, and automobiles. You're going the wrong way. That was across a 2-lane highway. He pulls up right on the window, and he is screaming some incoherent, the bad guy in the back gonna hurt you. And the people are like, huh? What are you saying? He's panicked. He looks like the nut job. All he would have had to do was give simple directions. He is a killer. He's going to kill you. Him. Just point at him. Simple. Jim's biggest enemy is himself. Jim, if he just took a break and his inability to communicate, later on, it gets to the diner scene, right? He shows up to the diner and Nash is working. It's closed and he's got to get in. Does he knock nicely and say, hey, I just need to use the bathroom, or can I use the phone? He's banging like a madman. Like, you don't know what's going on. Let me in. For some reason, she lets him in. All he would have had to do was tell her what's going on. She's like, well, what happened? He goes, it's too much. I can't tell you. Again, hitchhiker, killed family, blood on the road, call the police. Do you have a gun? Lock the door. Don't let anyone else in. Are there any back doors? Is there another phone? All of these are simple pieces of information, Gene. And maybe I'm just making more out of it, and I think I would be cool, calm, and collective in this situation. But there's so many opportunities for him to just convey that one piece of information, and it's driving me nuts.
Yeah. At first, I was going to give Jim a pass, because we have to account for the fact that he's witnessed some pretty horrifying shit. There's like dead bodies. He's throwing up. A guy's trying to kill him, right? He's incredibly sleep deprived. He started off the movie dozing off. At this point, he hasn't slept in like easily 24 hours. But then we see him get on the phone And he doesn't just like call 911. He like puts the money in and then he's like, beep, boop, bop, boop, boop. Hello, police. Like he dialed the police phone number, then explains the situation. So as you said, guy banging on the door before the diner opens and screaming some unintelligible shit and not explaining himself. That is exactly the guy that you don't allow into the diner. And if you're in a scenario like that, I understand that he's sleep deprived. I understand that he's seen some horrible shit. But I think that a survival instinct kicks in where you're like, I have to be calm right now in order to get help. And you just would.
But here's my question I just thought of. The finger in the French fries, does that mean the Hitcher got into the restaurant before he even got there?
I don't know if he's imagining the finger in the French fries because
no,
the Hitcher, listen, like I know he killed a bunch of cops and like unlocked the cell and like just skipped away. I know that he used
a bunch of cops.
I know that he took a revolver and shot down a helicopter. Like I understand all that stuff. I know that he can somehow hide around a corner with a fucking monster truck. I get all of that. But sneaking in while Nash is cooking, cutting somebody's finger off, slipping it into the fries, and then Jim doesn't notice until he's on like fry number 20 and like staring off into space because that's what he does. That just, he had to be imagining it, right? Was it a real finger?
No, it had to be a real finger. And Nash would not have plated that meal. She was proud of it.
Yeah.
So that finger had to have been put in between the time of her putting it on the counter,
right?
Him going to take a horse bath in the bathroom and coming back. And again, I mean, this is Jason Voorhees, like pre-positioning a camper in a sleeping bag hanging above a tree to fall on the other counselors later on.
And that's, to me, not the most unbelievable part of this movie. The most unbelievable part of this movie is Jim gets a gun off of a dead trooper. It's a revolver. It's a big honking like arm cannon, okay? He never checks to see if it has bullets in it. I know that Jim's not special forces and shit like that, but even a child who's never handled a gun, pulls a revolver off of that. You can see the rounds, right, in the chambers. You pull a gun off a dead guy who was clearly attacked, you definitely got to check to see if it's loaded. I don't know a single human being on the face of the earth that wouldn't look and just be curious, does this gun have bullets in it?
Dude, it didn't even just have no bullets, it had no shells, right? So this means the Hitcher killed all the cops, left the police dog walking around, then went through, emptied all of the shells out of the guns, put them back in their hands, went and hid, waited for Jim to come grab a gun. And then Jim didn't have it for like 20 minutes, right? Jim had it for about 6 hours as he walked across the desert. At no point during his walk, because it's in his hand, did he think to look in it. And again, maybe this is a kid who didn't know, but he figured it out pretty quick later on when he decided to open it up and see that there was no bullets. But yeah, again, Jim, everything is pointing towards Jim has had a psychotic break.
There have been countless movies, Big D, when people got in deeper and deeper with the cops and we're just screaming at the screen, like, just turn yourself in. It's not too late to turn yourself in. And in most movies, they just dig themselves in deeper and deeper. One thing Jim does, to his credit, is he does the smart thing and repeatedly tries to turn himself in. He's like, listen, I'm not going to outrun the cops. I'm not going to outshoot the cops. I'm not going to disappear, right? The safest thing for me to do with a killer on the loose trying to get me is to turn myself in, let the courts figure it out, right? We get to the point where he gets pulled off the bus and the cops clearly want to kill him. The cop is like,
you spit on my wrist.
Wipe it off. And Jim's like, I'm not moving. Like, you need to put the gun away before I'm going to move, okay? But it does raise the question of what do you do if cops are trying to kill you? Because you see all the time in social media stuff, people are like, hey, don't fight the cops. Just go with them and let the courts figure it out. But what if a cop is like, hey, I'm going to kill you? Then what do you do?
Okay, but Gene, this is not a normal situation, right?
Right.
Every time he says, hey, I'm just a kid, I'm turning myself in, every cop turns up dead.
Right.
Right. So this isn't like innocent kid on the bus and I'm spit on my wrist, I'm going to kill you. They have a reason to believe this psychopath. He just was on the radio. I'm going to turn myself in with these two nice cops who then get shot and they find their bodies. So I cannot blame the cops. But to answer your question, you have no option, dude. Nothing good. Just like I said, don't leave a place with a killer. Don't give anyone more of a reason to kill you.
When ICE really started doing like big actions in cities like Minneapolis, a lot of my friends were like, this is it. Like, you got to carry every day, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't see how that's going to help you in that scenario. Now, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not shooting my way out of that situation. My best bet, go in, get everything figured out, let the courts take care of it, etc. Maybe I end up in, CCOT, who knows? But a woman the other day, Big D, I was at an active shooter seminar. There was a woman, nice lady, and she asked the instructor, I understand that I should defend myself, find a weapon, if I have to fight my way out of the thing, whatever. Can I get in trouble from the police if I kill the shooter? Right? Like, let's say I hit them over the head with a brick and they die. Am I going to jail? The instructor was very polite and answered the question that, hey, listen, you can't guarantee it. You don't know what's going to happen. You're probably going to get locked up for a while. You might get roughed up by the cops, whatever. But I think that ultimately it's still the right thing to do to defend yourself. And I'm like, yo, they're shooting people. That's how far we've come from our survival instinct. We're like, I might get in trouble legally. You could die right now. People are dying right now. I will happily, and I'm not saying I'm a fucking hero here, but I'm saying if I'm at a mall or a movie theater and people are getting shot and my choice is save lives and spend the rest of my life in prison, I'll go to prison. I'll take that. That's fine. I'm not going to just be like, well, can't stop him.
Anybody runs in your house and says, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
I think it's reasonable to stand your ground.
In the scenario that Jim is in, they're going to kill you, dude.
Okay, but again, this is a bit of a stretch, Gene, for people who haven't watched this movie. At this point, Jim is no longer an innocent kid. Jim has been seen running from a police station with tons of dead cops. He's carrying the weapon. He's covered in blood. Hold on, Gene. It gets even worse. He's now snuck onto a bus, groomed Nash into pulling a gun and shooting at another 3 cops. He's then being chased down the road, causes 2 of the cars to flip over. Him and Nash are going to jail. They've killed 6 police officers. So at this point, I can't say I'm going to fault any law enforcement officer from killing both Nash and Jim and making it look like an accident.
What did Nash have to do with it?
She fucking shot a gun at the cops.
If she wanted to shoot him, she would have.
Okay, come on. We're splitting hairs now. I'm sorry. If Nash, again, our rule, Nash became an active shooter at that point. If true. I was concealed carrying on the bus, I'm going to come up behind Nash and just turn her lights out.
Well, Jim and Nash hike to a motel where Ryder abducts Nash and ties her between a truck and its trailer hitch. Captain Estridge tells Jim that his men cannot shoot Ryder because Ryder's foot would slip off the clutch, causing the truck to roll. Jim enters the cab with Ryder, who gives him a revolver and tells him to shoot, but Jim is unable to do so. Ryder, disappointed, releases the clutch, killing Nash.
So now we've reached the final phase. There's the final life cycle of the Hitcher. So at this point, he goes from being some kind of omnipresent spirit, right? He's now into, like, I'd say, like this, he's other. He's not a human. I'm at this point thinking he is a supernatural force, that there is something out in the desert of the West, that he is some old Indian burial ground, some spirit, something that's after him, because it's not just a case of a prankster serial killer, like in the jail, like setting up the entire environment to have him stumble out. You're setting this maze for him to run around, right? But now it goes into the next level. He's like disappearing like a puff of smoke, right? You have this now, it's a manhunt with Jim and Nash. They're being chased by multiple squad cars, a helicopter overhead. Where could the Hitcher be hiding? We see the Hitcher's POV. He's already 5 miles down the road, sitting damn near on the shoulder, right, Gene? The helicopter would have been like, we've got a mysterious vehicle. It's over on the side of the road. He's shooting at me. He's shooting at me. No, instead, nobody sees the Hitcher lying in wait. The Hitcher pulls out a snub-nosed revolver and with 3 shots takes down the fucking helicopter. We're past human capability, human logic. The movie honestly works better if we think of him as a demon. He's a spirit. If this isn't Jacob's Ladder, this is some form of supernatural force that's living in the highway. He has stumbled upon. Maybe he fell asleep, Gene, and something happened, and now he's being tested. Right? Because there's no logical reason that the police would not have seen the Hitcher, or the Hitcher would even try to do this. There are bodies everywhere, all over the highway. It's better, I think, if you think about this as like a superhuman, supernatural force.
Yeah, and why wouldn't you? You got Rutger Hauer. He doesn't even look like a person, right? Like, he's not human in my mind. Like many of us, like my first exposure to Rutger Hauer was Roy Batty in Blade Runner, which Rob H mentioned. And in my head, Rutger Hauer is forever a replicant who is somehow like inhuman and yet more human at the same time. And he's fine in like Blood of Heroes. He's okay. But when Rutger Hauer is allowed to be that like stoically unnerving, like somewhat psychotic force of nature, it is hard to remember he's just a man. So lean into it, man. Don't make him just a man. Make him something else.
Like he could be a man who turns into a wolf when the sun goes down.
Yes.
We've seen it before.
Big D, I want to piggyback on your frustration with Jim, because he's terrible at communicating. He doesn't act when he really needs to. But also, how many times is this kid going to bathe in this movie? Like, he shows up at Nash's diner and he's got to go splash off in the sink. He's got his overnight bag, changes into fresh clothes for his, finger fries. Then later they check into the motel and you got a hot young Jennifer Jason Leigh. She fucks on fire trucks, right? She's in your bed and he's like, I guess it's time for a steamy shower alone. And admittedly, I'm not the king of hygiene, but I feel like if there's a killer plus every cop in the state of Texas chasing me, like, showering isn't the top of my priorities.
Dude, every time you turn your back, he appears. He somehow snuck a finger in a French fry. No, I'm not turning on the TV. I'm not taking a shower. I'm locking all the doors. I'm barricading shit. No, you got to be prepared. But Gene, we've talked about now the journey of Jim. Yeah. From the beginning, he lacks the fortitude to make hard decisions. He's challenged along the way. He's grown into somebody who now, whether it's growth or it's devolved into somebody who's capable of unaliving like 6 cops in their cars and not really feeling bad about it. And we get to the final, or it's not even the final. I always thought that the truck stop and the drawn quartering scene was the end of the movie. It's not. There's more to come. So for those who haven't seen it, the Hitcher again sets up a jigsaw type puzzle, right? Where he's now somehow managed on his own to lift up Nash and tie her off between the back end of the truck and the little hitch or whatever it is, right? He's then managed to get into the truck, have it idling so she's suspended enough that she's not hurt. And the cops think it's a great idea. Hey, Jim, just go in there and see what you could do. What in Jim's history has shown the cops that he's capable of doing anything other than to remove the liability of the cops getting Nash killed? Maybe that's why you put him in there. He gets into the truck and Ryder says to him, here's a gun. It's loaded. You know what I want you to do. He wants him to shoot him. This is the end of the road. There is nothing else that could save her. And yes, maybe his foot will come off of the brake. And I'm thinking you shoot him, you turn off the truck really quick. That is your best option. Instead, he just cowers again. I can't do it. And he takes the gun from him. And I mean, the Hitcher, he just rips her apart. And you hear like meat, tendons, everything. Now, Gene, I've never killed someone that I'm aware of. But I honestly believe in this situation, I would have zero hesitation to shoot him in the head. None. Would you? Would any normal person hesitate at this point after everything Jim's been through?
I didn't think it as Jim being like feeling bad about shooting him. I think it was more that Jim was worried about the whole clutch thing.
But there's no other option. What was his plan? I'm going to sit here and whimper. At least come up with one plan. Doing nothing is no plan.
John Ryder at this point is established. He's giving Jim like lots of chances.
He's like, where is the guy who threw me out of a car? Jim, where are you? Mercilessly, it continues, Gene, to a fourth act.
After Ryder is taken into custody, Jim steals Estridge's revolver and vehicle to chase down Ryder's prison bus. Ryder kills the deputies on the bus and leaps through Jim's windshield as the bus crashes. Jim slams on the brakes, sending Ryder through the windshield and onto the road, then runs Ryder over and shoots him repeatedly with a shotgun, killing him.
Are we sure? Are we sure that he's killed him?
No, we're not sure.
There's at least, what do you think, like 5 deaths? Where he thinks, okay, Hitcher's done, threw him out of the car.
Right.
Okay, I've hit him with my truck. No, each time, he's coming back, dude.
Yeah.
It's Jason Voorhees. You stab him, you got to literally treat him like Tommy did, Jason Voorhees, in the final chapter. Die, die, die. You got to machete the head into it's just pulp. Doesn't do it. And I'm wishing, please be over. Please now, Jim, you know what would have been another interesting ending? Jim shows up in jail and he's now a fucking cuckoo nut. And he's part 2 Hitcher. He's going to go out there and find someone else to train in the way of becoming like an alpha, on the open road. But another alternate ending I'm thinking for this is that all along, what if the Hitcher never existed? This isn't like your Jacob's Ladder, right? What if in the end, this was more like
Fight Club.
Fight Club, yes, the Tyler Durden. That the entire time, this is Jim's broken mind. This is a character. This is a part of him. The road trip, the stalking, the setups, all of the manifestations and like the little setups that he do. It wasn't another person, and it makes it believable. This is how he could have done all of these impossible scenes. This is how he was always there. This was how he was able to get into places that were secured. That this could have been more of like a psychological horror instead of a chase. At the end, if you realized Jim all along was this other character, and it predates any of those other films, I think it would have been a great twist.
Let's just take the jail scene, for instance, right? It makes perfect sense that he's like, oh yeah, I just went to bed.
Exactly.
Doesn't remember the fact that he killed everybody and then went back to bed so that his conscience wouldn't have to deal with it. The diner scene, it makes a lot more sense. All the cars along the way full of dead people.
Or Nash laying in bed.
Yeah.
When the Hitcher's laying behind Nash.
Right.
That's him all along.
I don't think, however, it has to be an either or. So I'm going to sound like a broken record after Way of the Gun, where I went on about how it makes sense as a novel. But art doesn't always have to be definitive. It doesn't always have to answer. I mean, you think about music. We would never demand this of music. Make the lyrics make sense. What's the song about? If the film is meant to show us a story of a force,
fuck yes,
that is made manifest in a man, and it causes a change in a young driver, then that man, the Hitcher, he doesn't need to be bound by anatomy or law or logic or time or distance, right? There was a vision here. And the vision was relentless thing that, it's the Terminator, right? It's a relentless thing that follows Jim around and causes this change in him to where he becomes a killer. Now, could you make a movie that fills in those gaps and makes a little more sense? Yes. Does it make it a better movie? Not necessarily.
No. It's less interesting. It's unimportant. When you just make him some unknown.
It's like the classic Michael Myers thing, where whenever we talk about Michael Myers, I want to know less. I actually want to know less about him.
Yes.
He just is, right? That's it.
Agreed.
All right, now's the time of the podcast to give our Shat score. The Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes the movie takes to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is the perfect movie. It's when you're from Disneyland. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a film. It's Shitsville. Big D, please do the honors.
So, Rob, I have to disagree with the 1 wipe. It is beautiful. I do agree with you in that. It's shot beautifully. There's some scenes in the open road, whether it's Rutger Hauer standing up after he wakes up on the road and you see the horizon. It's shot beautifully, much better than the film deserves. But other than that, a lot of problems, a lot of ideas that you could see sounded great in the script that maybe didn't come to life on the screen. So I got to go 3.75 wipes. Hauer, he's great. He's creepy as fuck. He looks alien. He looks like a sociopath. He doesn't care. He's got dead eyes, which I think is the key. You believe he could rip apart Nash for no reason other than he just wanted to see Jim deal with the dilemma of what to do. You know, the highway scenes are memorable. It's got a good vibe, but I think that's all it is. And I think the plot, it falls apart, man. It just defies all logic. I think it's 3.75.
I'm going to come in a little kinder than you, Big D. I would have gone with a 3.75 wipes, but I want to make the case for the Hitcher's uniqueness. They let Nash die. That's not normal for 86, right? Ryder shot a fucking helicopter out of the sky. A dog was licking a dead trooper's wounds, the finger in the French fries. Rutger Hauer, just the visual of Rutger Hauer with some kids and some teddy bears in the back of a station wagon. There are so many moments in this movie that implanted memories for me. So many twists, so many turns. It's not a movie I'm going to forget easily, right? It's an artifact of a time gone by when movies were allowed to happen without refinement, without second guessing, like, oh, should we do it a different way, right? And I think it is special for that reason. Special, but not necessarily a great movie that I'd want to watch over and over again. I'm coming in at 3 wipes.
How many movies have we seen that actually kill children? Children always somehow come out. These kids in the backseat, yes, they don't show it, but there's no question. There's no ambiguity whether these kids are dead. The movie, again, I think with a little more restraint, show us less, teach us less, and it would have been much better.
With 3 3/4 wipes from you and 3 wipes from me, that gives us an average wipe score of 3.375 wipes for the Hitcher.
So, Gene, with that score of 3.375 wipes, that ties us in the 381 spot. Highlander 2, The Quickening, The Young Guns 2, Superman 2,
A lot of sequels,
Instinct, and The Muppet Christmas Carol. So 4 out of the 5 are sequels. I think it belongs there. I do.
Yeah, I'm not going to dwell on it. Yeah.
Thankfully, hour and a half. They didn't waste any time.
They wasted a lot of screen. 30% of the screen, to be sure.
Maybe the Sean Bean character can answer some of those questions. Whether he is
yeah.
I think there could have been some mystical component.
Jeepers Creepers sort of thing.
Yeah. Again, unstoppable force.
Yeah.
Just barreling down the road.
Well, thanks, Rob, for taking us through The Hitcher. Before we close out, I got one email. It comes from Ollie. It says, hello, guys. Firstly, I just want to say your podcasts are great. I've been a big fan of yours for a long time now. The Westworld series you did was amazing and really helped me understand what was going on. I wanted to get in touch to see if I commission a film, please. I would love it if you could do Heat with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. Also, is there any chance I could buy a signed t-shirt from you all to put up in my office? Thanks for all you do. Regards, Ollie. Well, Ollie, have I got a deal for you?
Oh boy.
Just so happens that vintage Shat, we did Heat, years ago in the Roger era.
Oh my God. Yeah.
We got an entire argument over bearer bonds. You will be probably regretting you listen to that episode after you do, but it's out there already. You can download it right now. Just go to anywhere you get your podcast and look for the Heat episode of Shat The Movies.
Yeah, that is one of those, in a world of multiverses.
Yeah.
That was where one of the branches of the timeline forks, where Roger pushed us too far. It's worth the re-listen. Yeah, where Roger is questioning at the end of the movie some characters who are alive that he thought was dead. I remember him saying something like he was ironing while watching the movie.
Yeah.
And it turned, this was like the little seed in our shoe that grew into a mighty oak of having to get rid of that Roger shoe.
As for the t-shirt, Ollie, would happy to do that for you. So we don't have t-shirts in stock. Like we don't keep an inventory of them, but we do have a link in shatpod.com to our store where you could purchase a t-shirt. If you really wanted one that was autographed, it would have to be Big D's autograph because he's the more popular member of the podcast. So he would have to order it, get it, sign it, and then ship it to you. And he told me earlier today that he'd love to do that.
I would love to do it.
Yeah.
He's putting it in his office. I wonder what else is in his office. What other artifacts? Yes, we'd be happy to do that for you.
There are multiple shirts, so you're going to want to pick the one. There's even a Big D shirt, so you could pick that one.
My mother has it. My mother also has the
does she?
coffee cup. She does. And you should do that because you're getting heat for free.
Yeah.
And you're not having to wait a year.
Free heat.
On demand. That's our new thing. Movies on demand.
All right, Ollie. So yeah, just go ahead and shoot us a follow-up email. Let us know which shirt after you look at the store, and we'll make it happen. Also, special offer to everybody out there. I've heard about the King B's motorcycle trip to Nashville. He is offering reviews from the road. And I went through many ways to try to make this happen. And I came up with perhaps the easiest, which is this. If you would like to hear any movie, a review of it. Now it's going to be like the length of an Instagram story, right? So, a minute or so, right? But any movie you want, all you have to do is go to Venmo and Venmo at King B Workshop, right? Be sure to include your name and the movie. And then also if you have like an Instagram handle that he could tag, that'd be really good. So that make sure you see it. We'll share them all on Shat The Movies Instagram as well, so you can follow up on them there. He's going to be doing reviews from the road while riding across Texas, hopefully not running into the Hitcher. And he's doing them for the low price of, you ready for this? $10 a movie.
I feel like we have to do a disclaimer at this point. It's like, all commissions done by King B on the road are not guaranteed to be of quality or certain length. And Shat The Movies and its hosts are not responsible for any content, offense, or not delivering on the product.
You want heat? You can do that. It could be a movie we've done, a movie we haven't done. He's seen pretty much everything. So yeah, at King B Workshop, Venmo, be sure to include your name, your Instagram handle, and the movie that you would like him to do for you. $10. He'll get it done. We'll share it on Shat The Movies Instagram.
And Gene, before we go, I had a wave of fear come over me today, worse than any scene in The Hitcher. I'm on the phone with my mother, and she goes, I'm seeing all of these videos with you and Gene talking about movies. And I immediately thought, fuck, which clips has Gene been posting? Because I know there was some that we posted where I talked about my family.
You in the front of the car, hitting your head on the windshield.
See, that one's okay. As long as it's not, don't ever do like the jerking off one or any of that stuff. It's I got to somehow, when I see my mother this week, I'm going to have to like unsubscribe her. Because otherwise, I'm going to worry every time they come up.
You might want to do that for Vanessa's parents, too.
They don't speak English, so we're good. As long as it's not one of the other relatives.
Okay, yeah, because In Vitro made it on there.
I saw that one. I'm okay with that. They're not watching it, but my mother, like to her RSS feeds and the stuff that she sees on her feed and on her Instagram wall is a mystery.
Yeah.
She just thinks you're delightful.
Oh, thanks. Your sister thinks I should be the top screen. So just saying. By the way, listeners, if you haven't checked it out already, on YouTube now, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, we're doing video clips handpicked by me. You can see what's going on in the pod while we're recording. And they are a delight, at least if you're related to us. All right, Big D. That's it for The Hitcher. What do we have coming up next week?
Gene, next week, Rob H. comes back with another film, and we're driving into a pressure cooker thriller where the guy talking people down suddenly becomes the one trapped inside. A respected lawman is accused of something dirty, and instead of trusting the system, he takes matters into his own hands with the most extreme way possible. What follows is a battle of nerves, bluffing, and two strong personalities trying to outthink everyone in the room. Loyalties shift, tempers rise, and every conversation feels like it could explode. Next week, we're watching a story about corruption. Again, all of these are common themes we've been doing lately. Leverage and how far desperate men will go to clear their name. Came out in 98, and this should be a good one. I remember a little bit about it, but it's been a long time since I've watched it.
All right, Rob, well, thank you for commissioning The Hitcher and our upcoming movie. Thank you to all the commissioners make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat The Movies. You should follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat The Movies. You can email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by buying our merch or commissioning your own movie. Find all information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all information on our website, shatpod.com/TV. Wherever fine podcasts be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you stop at Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next time for the following movie.
To prove his innocence, an honest cop is taking the police hostage.
You are not in control!
On July 31st, negotiations are over.
Right now, I'm the only thing standing between you and an army that's just itching to take you out.
And the action begins.
Pull the trigger!
Samuel L. Jackson.
You want my blood? Take my blood!
Kevin Spacey.
I can't hold them back anymore. They're coming up.
The Negotiator. Rated R. Negotiations begin Friday, July 31st everywhere.